Hey guys, Matt here again with my second video of the weekend. This is June 2025. I'm going to do the Queen of Soul today, Aretha Franklin. It's going to be a rare thing for me because I much to my failing, I have not done too many women in my shows. Certainly no African-American women. So Aretha will be my first. She is practically my favorite singer, male or female. So I'm just gonna be looking at her early Atlantic albums today from 67 through 74, I wanna say. I'll be using primarily this little nifty box set, came out a few years ago. It's the Atlantic Albums Collection, but it doesn't have all her Atlantic albums because she recorded with that label from 67 right through 79, I believe. So I'm just going to be doing from I Never Loved a Man in 67 through whatever the one that came out in 74 is called. There are other albums in here, like they put Sparkle, but they skipped a couple of records, which I'll talk about when I get to it. So, Aretha Franklin, we can start off, well, I'll just use the regular CD and then I'll show you the gold disc. This is the first album she did for Atlantic. It is the classic I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. It, for all intents and purposes, could still be my favorite Aretha album. It's practically a greatest hits record. She had recorded with Columbia before this for years, many albums, none of which I own. And Columbia continued to release Aretha Franklin albums that she had recorded pre-Atlantic during her tenure with Atlantic. Well into the 70s, they were still releasing albums of stuff that she had recorded previously. I'm not going to be dealing with any of the Columbia material, just the Atlantic stuff. Atlantic was a great label, by the way. They had, well, Stax Volt, of course, was a subsidiary of Atlantic, so they owned all that stuff. But I mean, you also had Crosby, Stills, and Nash. You had Led Zeppelin. You had Yes, I think we're on Atlantic, right? So a whole stable of classic acts, and of course Aretha Franklin. So this album, Respect, the Otis Redding song, which she owns. She does Ray Charles, Drown in My Own Tears. She really liked Ray Charles. She brought him on stage for her live album in 71. I'll get to that when I get to it. I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. Soul Serenade, the King Curtis number. Don't Let Me Lose This Dream. Baby, Baby, Baby. The classic Dr. Feel Good, Good Times, the classic Do Right Woman, Do Right Man, Save Me, which is a great number, and again, another Sam Cooke song, A Change Is Gonna Come. She sings the hell out of these songs. She sings the hell out of everything. So I'm gonna run out of superlatives to say about her singing. But this is a 5-star classic. You're gonna see it in, almost any list of great albums from the 60s, or greatest albums of all time, probably. Certainly greatest albums of 67. And here is the old Mobile Fidelity gold disc of that title. You want to hear these albums in mono, at least these early ones. All right. Okay. Moving on. The somewhat disappointing Aretha Arrives album also came out in 67. It's not that it's a bad album, but it's just, it doesn't have too many classics on it. She still sings every bit as well as she always does, but I think this album was rushed. This is where her version of Satisfaction comes from. Otis Redding had done Satisfaction. I won't even go over these songs. She does 96 Tears of all things. Nightlife, That's Life, and of course, Baby I Love You, which is a classic. But it's just, if you're going to look at Aretha in 67, that's what you want. All right? But it's, it's fine. It comes with the box set. I had not heard that album before I bought the set. All right. Another classic, another contender for greatest Aretha album is Lady Soul. 68. All right? Practically as good as I Never Loved a Man. This is a smaller print here. Chain of Fools is a classic. Money Won't Change You is excellent. People Get Ready, Curtis Mayfield. Nikki Hockey is great Aretha. Made Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. That's another classic Aretha Franklin song. Since You've Been Gone. I mean, I'm going to get tired of saying the word classic, but I just mean it's one of her great songs. Goodbye Me As I Am to You. God, I can barely read this. Come Back Baby. Oh, well, guys, I cannot read the rest. This is another practically 5-star album. You know what? I've got that one as a gold disc, too. This is a twofer on Mo Fidelity of Aretha Now and Lady Soul. All right? So, Lady Soul, because I can read this. Come Back Baby, Groovin', and Ain't No Way, which is another great one. So, there's the songs for you. So, Lady Soul, another one of her epic records. I should talk a bit about these albums too, because they're all made with those musicians. I think Tom Dowd did these early albums. She worked in those southern studios, and she used the same people. Like she had her backing singers, which her sister Carolyn was one of them sometimes. But she used her backing singers, especially on these early albums, almost the way that Elvis used the Jordanaires. They were like an integral part of her sound, and she always had a gospel feel to the way that she sings. I mean, so many African American singers did, especially at that time. But Aretha seemed like, again, to use that phrase, the queen of that kind of singing, and all of these albums work to a degree. I'm going to tell you which ones I think are lesser than, but there are no bad ones. Aretha Arrives is not a bad album. It's just not as good as I Never Loved a Man. So, Lady Soul, then Aretha Now, which I've already shown you on the Mo Fidelity. Another really, really good one, folks. This is another album from 68. I can't even read that, so I'll just use this. Think, classic, right? I Say a Little Prayer, which, is the Burt Bacharach number that Dionne Warwick had already scored with. But Aretha sings it different than Dionne. I love me some Dionne Warwick, too. I don't have a much of Dionne Warwick albums, though, so I'll probably never do a show on her. But she was more, kind of like supper club, cabaret type of singer than Aretha, although I think Dionne comes from the church, too. But the arrangement that she used is closer, I think, to what Bacharach David had in mind for that song than what Aretha does. But they're both superb. I would be hard-pressed to pick a favorite of those two. Seesaw is great. That's an early number. Nighttime is the Right Time is Ray Charles again. You Send Me, Sam Cooke. So many singers were influenced by Sam Cooke. You're a Sweet, Sweet Man. I Take What I Want. Hello, Sunshine. A Change. And I Can't See Myself Leaving You. So there you are. This is the old twofer of Lady Soul and Aretha Now. These are the only Mo-Fis that I can remember that they ever did for Aretha Franklin titles. Okay. Also in 68 was Aretha in Paris. This gets some flack. She's not using her studio band here, but I don't think it affects the music that much. She does Satisfaction, Don't Let Me Lose That Dream, This Dream, Soul Serenade again, Nightlife again, Baby I Love You, Groovin', the Young Rascals tune. She's doing most of her material that she's already done. Come Back Baby, Dr. Feelgood, I Never Loved a Man, Shading Full Respect. I like it. This is the first of 3 live albums I'm going to be showing you from the years in question, that we're doing this video on, 67 through 74. It's not bad. It might be her least memorable live album of the 3 I'm going to show you, but it's still Aretha in her prime in the 60s. I like it. I played it, every once in a while. All right, Soul 69 was released in 69. I'm going to say this is an average Aretha Franklin album. Which is to say it's still good. It's just that, it's not I Never Loved a Man. It's not Lady Soul. And it's not the best thing she would do in 69, which I'll get to that in a second. But it's still good. It's a better album than, Aretha Arrives, for instance. Small font again. Ramblin'. Today I Sing the Blues. River's Invitation, Pitiful, not Mr. Pitiful, the Otis Redding number. Crazy, He Calls Me, Bring It On Home to Me, Sam Cooke again. Tracks of My Tears, Smokey Robinson. If You Gotta Make a Fool of Somebody, Gentle on My Mind, the Glenn Campbell number. So Long, I'll Never Be Free, and Elusive Butterfly, Bob Lind. So no classic songs on here, but it's still, again, I'll use that same expression I used before. It's still within her prime in the 60s. All right? So to me, not one of her greater albums, but certainly, you know, nothing to sneeze at. Anyway, I should talk for a second now, as I'm over 10 minutes into this video. Aretha was a songwriter too. She just wasn't a songwriter who wanted to write everything that she recorded. You know, as a lot of singers do, you know, she liked to pick the songs that she enjoyed, that other people had either had hits with or that were more obscure, and she felt she could do something with those numbers. At the same time, she's also writing herself. You know, she was a piano player. And so none of these albums have like, you know, like half the numbers are written by her. But, well, she actually began to write more, I think, in the early 70s than she had in the 60s. So some of her greatest numbers were written by her. All right? So, oh, I thought she had another album in 69. Was that the only one? Because This Girl's in Love with You is 1970, I think. So maybe that was her only album in 69. All right, so This Girl's in Love with You, of course, that's another Burt Bacharach number. This Guy's in Love with You. Herb Alpert saying that, right? This is pretty good. This is what I would say would be, you know, an above average Aretha album. I like it more than Soul 69. Can I read this? Son of a Preacher Man, Dusty Springfield, Share Your Love with Me, Dark End the Street, right? James Carr, it's a classic. Let It Be is the Beatles. Paul had sent her that number before the Beatles even broke up for her to record. Eleanor Rigby, which she kind of made a lot out of that because that was on her live album too, I think. This Girl's in Love with You, which was a hit. It Ain't Fair, The Weight, you know, Robbie Robinson, the band. Call Me, which is an Aretha classic, I would say. And Sit Down and Cry. So pretty good. Pretty good. Not one of her 5-star efforts. But again, you're not going to go wrong with any of these albums, guys. Okay, here's one of my favorites. Spirit in the Dark. 70 or 71, I can't remember. Probably 70. This is one of her stronger numbers, or one of her stronger LPs. All right, this is the first great album that she made in the 70s. Don't Play That Song is awesome. The Thrill Is Gone, B.B. King. Pullin', You and Me, Honest I Do, Spirit in the Dark. She does wonderful with that. When the Battle Is Over, One Way Ticket. Try Maddie's, That's All I Want From You. Oh No, Not My Baby, the early 60s soul song. And Why I Sing the Blues. All right. It has a real nice flow to it. It sounds like an album, you know, more than just a collection of recordings. Spirit in the Dark. I'm going to say this was her best album, possibly since Lady Soul. All right. Okay. In 71, this is her live album at Fillmore West. Yep. Because Bill Graham is introducing her. This was originally, well, it's been added to. Like, for instance, this is the double disc version, so it's not the original LP version, but it's good. She brings Ray Charles out for a rather extended number, which it's cool that she's on stage with Ray Charles, but I think that song could have used some editing. And here's the quad mix of that album. This is just, I think, the original album. I don't think this has anything that's been added. But, you know, good song section. Respect Again. Love the One You're With. She is, you know, catering to that Fillmore crowd, which she knows, you know, I want to say it's like a bunch of white hippies, but clearly I'm sure it was her people there. Bridge Over Troubled Water. So she's, you know, doing Stephen Stills and Paul Simon. Eleanor Rigby, that's 3, you know, songs written by white songwriters in a row. Make It With You, Bread, right? So there's a little bit of, you know, playing to the room. Don't Play That Song, Dr. Feelgood, Spirit in the Dark, with Ray Charles, and then Reach Out and Touch. So it's a strong live album without being essential, right? That's the version probably that most people know now because it's extended, all right? And Young Gifted and Black. I don't remember if that's 71 or 72. Could be 72. This is another strong one. This is another, I actually might like this more than Spirit in the Dark. It starts off hella good. Oh my, I'm a fool for you. Oh me, oh my. Daydreaming and Rocksteady, 3 classic Aretha Franklin songs in a row. This is almost the best 1, 2, 3 punch of any Aretha Franklin album. Young Gifted and Black, Nina Simone. All the King's Horses, A Brand New Me. I like all that. That's a really stupendous side 1. April Fools, I've Been Loving You Too Long. She finally does an Otis tune after Respect, right? First Snow in Kokomo, which that one she wrote. The Long and Winding Road, another Beatles tune. What, her third one that she's covered now? I can't read that. Didn't I? And Border Song, the Elton John number, which that was a charting single the year before this album came out. So this is really strong. This is another Aretha classic. I like that cover too. But to show you what a strong year she had in 72, Amazing Grace also came out that year. This is the third live album of this era. This, you want to hear her gospel roots. This was recorded at a church, right here in LA. It's in South Central, not too far from where I work. Her father was here, but it's I think Reverend James Cleveland is the guy who's like the MC. It was a double album, but this is an expanded version. It's even longer than the original double album. She does gospel numbers. She also takes the, Carole King, You've Got a Friend song and kind of makes it into a gospel number. You want to hear her really get down and bring it all back home to the church. This is it. I'm not a huge fan of gospel music, but the few gospel albums I own, and I'm going to consider this to be a gospel album, really do it for me, Elvis recorded some great ones. This is a great one. But I think you have to go back to the 50s, though, to hear sterling examples of that genre. Like Sam Cooke recorded some really good gospel material, too. I should do me a Sam Cooke video. I'm trying to think if I have enough of his albums to do it. I do probably his 60s albums. Anyway, Amazing Grace, possibly the last classic album that she made, but that's just my opinion. And I have not heard every Aretha Franklin album ever made anyway. I haven't even heard all those Atlantic albums from the second half of the 70s. So, boom, finishes 1972. What's this one called? Hey Now, Hey, The Other Side of the Sky. This is a good one too. This is from 73. She's kind of, changing her style. I like those graphics. It almost reminds me of the Miles Davis on the corner graphics. She's going a bit jazzier direction, which she had done, with some recordings prior to this. I guess since she had just gone full gospel on the previous album, she's not so much doing that here. But, I just played this in my car this week. So, Hey Now, Hey, that's a great opening number. Somewhere is the West Side Story tune. So Swell When You're Well. Angel is classic Aretha. Sister from Texas, she wrote that one. Mr. Spain is kind of erotic for her. That's the Way I Feel About Ya. Nobody's Mood and Just Right Tonight. It's strong, This is one of the last really good ones that she would release, sequentially. And the last one that we're going to do, that I'm going to show you, is Let Me Be In Your Life. This is from 74. Some would say this is a stronger album than the previous one. I don't know. I played this one yesterday in my car to familiarize myself with it again. There's no way I can read those. See that? No way. So, but it's good. It has, again, the feel of it being an album, which she had been doing that, with her early 70s records, more than just, a collection of songs. The reason I'm stopping here, because, well, okay, now's the time to tell you about the albums that are skipped in this box set. She released 2 more albums after this, which were not well received. And then she did Sparkle, which is better, but it's past my cutoff date, so I'm not going to talk about that. So I'm going to say that her albums from 67 through 74 were consistent. Some are lesser, as anyone's discography would be from those years, but she was certainly more hit than miss. One of the great voices of all time. She had various comebacks in her career, especially in the 80s. There's all kinds of ways you can get Aretha Franklin hits. She's got box sets. I have this 30 greatest hits, which does me well. See those songs? You can totally read that. This covers the exact era that I have presented to you in this video. It's got some songs on here, or at least for sure one that was a big hit that wasn't on an album, and that's The House That Jack Built. She has a classic 1969 compilation. Actually, that's where The House That Jack Built comes from. And again, these are, 30 of her charting singles. There you go. From these years. So, how to wrap up with Aretha, 21 minutes into the video. Not too many more superlatives I can tell you, other than she's my favorite singer. If you're like a rocker, and you don't have any Aretha Franklin in your collection, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is definitely part of my DNA. I did not grow up as a kid in the 70s having too much African-American music. I was a typical little white suburban kid who loved rock. I had me some Motown albums, and I bought various 45s. I didn't start getting into like the history. Well, I was always into the history of white rock, but I did start getting into from the 50s on up, and all the black aspects of rock and roll culture until the 80s, till I was, when CDs came out in the mid 80s, and I was 19, 20, that's when I really started buying a lot of that stuff. And one of the things that really turned me on to R&B and soul was, see if you remember this, Atlantic Records, Aretha's label, put out 7 double LPs, which they squashed, each double LP onto one CD, and then if it didn't fit, they would leave a couple songs out. It was their overview of all the great R&B and soul hits that were from 1947 to 1974, the same year that I'm leaving off here with Franklin. And I bought those CDs. I loved them at the time. Looking back now, they didn't sound that good. They weren't loud. There was a lot of tape hiss. But the song selection is outstanding. For an overview of R&B soul music on the Atlantic label from those years, late 40s to mid 70s, it's unbeatable. I think there was also a big LP-sized box set, which came out later, but what I had was the individual CDs. I've still got them, I just don't play them because the sound quality is not good. That's what turned me on to, Aretha and Otis Redding and Ray Charles and Sam and Dave and a million other ones, the Coasters, Drifters. I mean, Atlantic has to be the greatest label for African American music. Outside of Motown, although why is Motown better than Atlantic? That's a discussion you could have. And of course, the whole Stax Vault list of artists is included with Atlantic too. So Aretha Franklin, singers don't get any better. And I hope, if you don't have any Aretha in your collection, this video might make you think about acquiring some. Of course, if you're not into Aretha, you're not going to watch the video anyway, so I'm not stupid. Matt, signing off.